Hello. Welcome to Finsweet Live Community Day, and I'm joined with Bailey Fisher. Bailey Fisher is the founder of Black Peak, a Webflow-only agency. Bailey leads a team of kick-ass Webflow and Wized power users that enable enterprise companies to utilize no-code tools. He was one of the first 100 users in V1 of Wized and strives to build the best web apps possible with it. You can catch him in Vancouver's nature in his free time. Bailey, what's up? Welcome
How's it
to
going?
Finsweet Community Day. I'm doing really well, and I'm excited to
Super
have
stoked
you
to be
on.
here.
Good.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
So I know Bailey through Wized
Yeah.
for a long time, probably a whole year, ever since we started owning Wized. I always heard Bailey's name as, hey, this is the top user. This is the top power user. This is the one that's always talking about Wized and just trying to push the limits of V1 at all times. So, of course, started to know him. We told him the information a little bit earlier, and we're working together to make Wiz really the best it can be. So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk to Bailey. He is really smart guy, really motivated, and I think anybody watching this is going to be motivated or learn something by the end of this. So,
Yeah.
Bailey, welcome. Really happy.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a while. I don't even know if I would call it V1 of Wiz because at that point it was called Platform Wizards. And I was literally on the wait list for Platform Wizards before they had REST API support, anything like that. So it's been a while. And yeah, we met a year ago. Yeah, it's been a long time, but it's been good.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people in here want to meet you. I'm sure they're going to want to hear about Wized and what you're doing with that, because a lot of people are trying to get access to that V2, and you've been using it for a few months now. So
Yeah.
let's say hello to everybody in the crowd, and then we'll get into really learning about you. Let's say hello to John Saxton. Hello, Mike Douglas. Welcome. Robert Flauter. Hello. Mika, how you doing? Wolfgang, how are you? Sean Duval, welcome. We have Greg Dolan. Hello. Steve Stanbury, Michael Rose, Dale Jensen. We have a lot of our regulars. We have a lot of new people too. Glenn at the Flow. Hello. Also, I think Glenn's going to be a really powerful V2 user. Welcome, Glenn. Steve Stanbury, again, saying hello to Glenn. Great. We have Gabriel, Zach Bujasia. We got a whole bunch of more people. Rock and Roll CEO Magdalena. And that's it for saying hello to everybody. Welcome live. Really excited to learn more about Bailey. So let's get right into that. Bailey, tell us your story. How did you get started? Whenever you see the beginning of your professional career until today, tell us that story.
Yeah, I have some pictures to share actually with this, a little bit of a Figma doc we can go through. So Black Peak name, people ask me where Black Peak came from. I don't really know. It just kind of came out of thin air. I was talking to Joe the other day at how cool and kick-ass the Finsweet name is. And I don't know if I have an exciting story as that, but we got lots of mountains in Vancouver. I don't know. I think I just decided of Black Peak. This was back in 2016, a while ago now. I actually scrounged up this photo from one of our first sites we ever did. I remember building the first site in Weebly. And the goal of this site was to be like a movie review site. I was really into film and wanted to dabble in websites, just very creative and wanted to find a place to output that creativity. And so started in film, built this website, and didn't really know what it was going to be. But yeah, we just thought Black Peak. Sure, that sounds good. Went into school and then university, and I was going to go into film. But before that, I started in graphic design. And I actually worked my first corporate job when I was 18 at Streamlabs. They did video broadcasting software for Twitch, and so I was a graphic designer for them. Worked there for about a year and a half, and that was good for my creative outlet. But I wanted something a little bit more than that. And after that, went into the film industry. Worked in the film industry for probably a good 4 years or so, and that started even before 2016. I was kind of dabbling in it a little bit. Spent a good year or two as a camera assistant, just pulling focus. Worked on movies like Deadpool, Riverdale, some TV series here in Vancouver. Got to work some really cool gear. And this, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is peak creative output for me. It's like, I always think of building cameras as like building advanced Lego. I used to love Lego as a kid. And these cameras is like crazy advanced Lego, right? You can build them to suit whatever you're shooting. And that was a super fun time. Fast forward a bit, met my now fiance, was really into portrait photography, because film, it was just too much. It was like 16-hour days, and it was good money, but you didn't have time to spend it, and you didn't have time to spend with friends. You're just on the set all the time. Literally, you'd wake up, go to work, eat all your meals on the film set, come home, and the only thing you do is like brush your teeth and shower and go to bed, and then you repeat. There's no time for anything else. So it's too much. So I was like, how do I get the creative output of film, but in another form? Like, what am I using now for my creative output? And so I went to photography, and you can see I got some sweet pictures around Vancouver. Loved portrait photography. That's kind of one of my most favorite things to do. And there again, it's my fiance as well. And then after that, I was like, this is cool, but portrait photography doesn't make any money. So how do I start making some more money? And I was doing freelance on the side as well, under the name of Black Peak, building sites. I remember my first site I built for $200, right? I think we all have that story. Like the first site was like something on like Wix, Weebly, maybe even Webflow for some people. Something really mediocre and just garbage, but it worked out. And that started, and did that graphic design, film, and then worked for a shoe company called Casca as a head of e-commerce. So at this time, freelance wise, I was actually doing marketing for an accessory company locally here, as well as my websites for freelance were picking up a little bit of steam. So I was like, how do I, do I want to do freelance? Do I want to work for a company? It's kind of in this limbo of like, do I want to work for myself? Do I want to work for someone else? And this is actually right when COVID hit. I remember I started this job at Casca February 2020. Literally, I spent 1 week in the office, and that Friday we were sitting at the TV watching COVID kind of come down, saying, this is it. And we were all like, what's going to happen? What's this going to turn into? And we never worked back at the office since. But it was fun. It was lots of fun. I designed a good chunk of their site, did the UI for the checkout flow. So made sure the path to purchase was as efficient as possible. This is where I got a lot of my UX background, because I spent almost every day looking at user heat maps, user recordings, seeing how people navigate sites. And this really, I would say, brought my website design into the next kind of tier of professionalism, learning how to manage this. And it was really cool. It was a really cool company. They weren't just a shoe company. They were also kind of a tech company, because the insoles were actually 3D printed. And so you'd buy a pair of the shoes, take 3 pictures of your foot, the tops and sides, and they would 3D print the insoles custom to your foot. I think there's like 10,000 different like ways it can be printed. It's crazy complex. So that was really cool. Learned a lot from that. And after that, I left there, decided to pursue Black Peak full time. And now we're doing some really kick-ass work in Webflow. We got a team of 4. And even while I was at Casca, I was starting to build up the team a little bit. And it got to the point where I was like, I need to be on this full time. And now we have a team of 4 plus myself. And we built some pretty kick-ass stuff in Webflow.
Nice. Okay. That is a big career change, right? Going from video to
Yeah.
photography to web,
Yeah.
and now getting on the more technical side, right? So I feel like you're now almost going through another change from web to application development.
That's
So
true.
we'll
That's
definitely
true.
talk more about that. Now, I found it very interesting that you found your creative path through these different jobs, right? You said that you didn't want to do video, but you still needed that creative juice. And then you got into photo and you loved
Mhm.
it, but it didn't pay as much. So you needed to transfer that creativity output somehow. So are you actively searching for this I need to be at this level of creativity to be happy
Yeah.
while I'm working?
Yeah. You know, it's funny actually. I was literally talking to my fiance the other day saying I need something outdoors in nature because while my free time I like to spend in nature, my free time is pretty much none, right? Like I my work-life balance is something I'm working on. But I was thinking about getting into FPV drones. And because I love making nature videos and I love that type of thing. And so maybe getting into that because some of the stuff you can do with FPV drones is super cool, and it kind of combines video but very action packed and dynamic, and so that I think is something I want to get into the next couple months. But if you notice, like my first website I built in 2012 was a website focusing on film reviews, right? Then I went into film, then I went to graphic design, which is kind of websites just static. And then so everything kind of molds into the website because now the websites we build are super, I call them like experiences rather than websites. And I'll show you guys this growth agency here because it's dynamic, has lots of movement, almost like a video, but it's almost like a graphic as well. And then you have all these portions of film and graphic and photo built into one. So it's kind of like a really great way to tie everything together, I would say.
Okay, so then with that cue, let's go right into this work that you're most proud of. So let's bring up this work. Let's see what this experience is all about. And just to be clear, these are now sites that you have built as Black Peak for
Correct.
clients.
Yeah. So Black Peak the agency has built this, and these guys are a marketing agency based out of the States here. And so what we've done is they came to us and they said, you know, we want to build a marketing site that is unique and is different. And I thought marketing, you have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, right? How do we represent this on a website? And I thought of Gumball Machine. You know, you go to these just anywhere they have the gumball machines, and it's just really cool, and it's just a way to gamify kind of a donation, right? And so we thought, okay, let's build this in 3D. And so we drafted this out, we sketched this up, and I don't think we realized how difficult this is going to be to start, because building 3D renders in Blender that have real life physics, it's a lot more difficult than you'd think before. And so you can see we have the top of funnel here where the purple balls are representing the clients going into the funnel, and then you scroll down and you have all these different kind of portions along the funnel where these clients are going through the client's services. And we kind of have this depth here where the balls come out from behind the site, appear in the front, and then go in back behind. That was a pretty neat way of making it work. And then at the end, the bottom funnel, they convert and turn into money, right? So the clients go through this machine and they come out with our client's coin on them and they convert. So that's kind of our process of how we did the top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, and showed that on the site. And I'm really proud of this one. This is probably one of my most favorite sites we've built.
That is so cool. Super badass.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh, I agree. This is more of an experience. You are communicating and creating a visual representation of what the client wants of content. Very cool. And I remember there was a point where Finsweet did this type of design work. Tell
Mm.
us your idea and we animate it. I always thought that these kind of projects took a lot longer than we expected, right? Like we thought,
Yeah.
hey, it's going to do this and we're going to do all this in this amount of time. But then when you really get deep into it, it's always more time than you expect. Is that what you found on this site, or did you have a really good process for speccing this and delivering on it?
I thought our process was pretty good beforehand. One thing about me is I'm crazy. I like to be really organized with my work and very task orientated. I thought our processes were really good, and they were. They could definitely be better, though. But this project taught us a lot in project management, client management, setting expectations up front. This is a really good project for us. I would say it definitely took us to the next tier of websites after we finalized this one. So definitely took a little bit longer than expected. Nothing crazy, but it taught us some good lessons.
You know, it's going to be dangerous having this type of creativity, this type of 3D work mixed with web application development.
Uh,
So
yeah,
let's
yeah,
now see the next project, which, from my understanding, has Wized built into it, and it's
yeah.
actually a web application.
So this is going to be our site, and we've got some really, really cool sites that we're kind of in this transitionary period right now because we have V2, but we haven't had it for a long enough time yet to finish a client project. We're actually just in the database phase of this one project, probably building one of the most complex features of this tool alone. Like this function that we're building in Xano, right? This function, one button click, the user enters some data, it goes and creates records. I can't say for what, but creates records based on a bunch of different variables, probably like 15, 20 different variables. And on one button click, this function is building around 12,000 rows of data for one button click. That's going to be used in this tool. It's difficult, but we're getting through it, and that's what I like. I like troubleshooting and trying challenges and just logic. Logic makes sense to me. I'm not very good at math, but logic makes sense, and troubleshooting, I like it. So that's another story. But our site, Black Peak, we just redid it. And yeah, we have Wized built in. So you can see we can log in. I can log in with email, password. I can log in with Google if I want. It's going to ask me to authenticate with Google. I can go authenticate. It's going to pass the authentication token, log me into my account, all super fast because it's on V2. Load my data there dynamically, and then we're good to go. Right now, we have tutorials on our site from when V1 is still around. We did a bunch of tutorials to cover some of the content Wized V1 didn't. And V2 is we have a bit of a clonables tab here. So we have some clonables coming soon. One of them, a demo at State of Flow. For those that went to State of Flow, was the content suggestion and the machine learning using GTP3. But we have some really cool stuff coming. One of the things I wanted to do is build Calendly in Wized, as this is a bit of a kind of a passion project I'm working on. Because honestly, I hate paying $40 a month to companies like Motion and Calendly for something that's pretty basic, or you'd think is pretty basic. But now that I'm building it in Wized, it's fun. These are the challenges I like, trying to figure out how do we connect with Google Calendar's API to show a list of available times. So there's a lot of complexity involved there. But once it's built, we're going to offer it as a clonable, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. But on top of that, some of the things we're building is things like forum functionality. And so I can scroll down and see people are like someone 20 minutes ago posted on this forum. Um, and you can comment on these. So I can say like anything I want. And this is going to post super quick there. And there it is. Worked in under a second. And so down the road, I was in the Finsweet Pro chat the other day. We're talking about he also mentioned that State of Flow, so I think I could say this. The live chat functionality that's going to come down the road, and the ability to be able to update records based on a listener, which will be really, really powerful. So got some really cool stuff coming. We also have a really big product that we're building internally at Black Peak that is going to assist Wized users in a crazy way. We haven't told really anybody about it yet, and that's going to come soon.
That's awesome. I'm just writing in the chat here. Ask questions about Wized. I'll make Bailey answer them. So let's accidentally give away some secrets.
Yeah,
It's
I'll try
really
not to.
cool that you're building all of this. The the clonables section, right? You're going to offer these for free, or will these be paid, or not sure yet?
We're not sure. We're not sure.
Okay,
My priority is getting the community to build the best they can. That is my priority.
nice.
So Joe, we discussed this before the clonables. We're thinking tutorials around the clonables will be completely free. So you can learn how to make the clonable. Learning how to make the clonable will not cost you anything. I don't want to gatekeep that information. But if you want to clone it, that's where some sort of paid membership may come into play. So still debating how we want to offer that, but that's something we're discussing internally. And yeah,
Nice. So, for something like a Calendly clone, tell me the stack that's used for that. What types of tools do you need to use? What APIs do you need to build a Calendly clone?
yeah. Nothing crazy, honestly. Right now, it's looking like a REST API call. It's just a normal API call to Google's Calendar API, returning the list of availabilities based on a certain calendar. And with that, you have to get an API key from Google that's connected to your specific email. So it looks like a couple API calls to Google, maybe a Xano database to store, no, definitely a Xano database to store the booked meetings, and then use functions on top of Xano to then send email reminders to clients based off of, an hour before the meeting, a day before the meeting, whatever intervals you want, and then using SendGrid to send those emails. So nothing too crazy, but the API call to Google is probably the trickiest part of the situation.
Interesting. That's great. It's so cool that you're able to do that with Wized and you're experimenting with it. This is something I heard a lot about you in V1, that you're
Yeah,
really trying to push the platform to the limits.
yeah,
That we know Wiz can do this, but let's now come up with the most complex use case to see if Wiz can handle this. And I feel
yeah,
like the Calendly, it's possible, of course, technically speaking, but there's a lot of things going on here. So this is a big problem to solve using Wized. I love it. I think it's
yeah.
very creative, and it's people are going to really appreciate that, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
No, it's tricky. And for example, with V1, um, I was talking with Jonas quite frequently. We were having meetings probably once, twice a month or so. And he always told me, I was using Airtable before. He was always telling me, you need to use Xano. You need to try Xano. It's just so much better. Tried Xano, loved it. And then he said, you could do Google authentication with Xano. And that is something I really wanted to try. Um, and so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. But of course, there's no documentation into how to use Wiz with Google authentication. There is some around how to use it on Xano, but nothing particularly for Wiz with Xano using Google authentication. And I timed myself. I spent around 17 and a half hours over the span of probably 2 days learning how to build this myself, just teaching myself, figuring it out, trial and error. This is where I'm saying like I'm obsessed around troubleshooting and challenging items and trying to get them to work. Maybe it's just that like that rush of excitement when you get something to work is maybe that's what I'm looking for. But yeah, after that time, I got it to work, and that was my first tutorial I built was how to build Google authentication in Xamarin. And people loved it, and a lot of people actually used it in V1 to build build their products out. And now with V2, trying the same thing, trying to build the most complex situations with Wized possible, and just push its boundaries.
Let's let's talk about that rush of excitement that you're explaining here. Let me theorize something. When you're using Webflow for the first time, for the seventh time, for the 20th time, you get this rush of excitement when you do something because you say, wow, I can't believe I made this layout, or I
Yeah,
structured this in this way, or I built this CMS, or I did this Webflow interaction. And then when you get up to your 40th site, that rush of excitement doesn't exist like it used to, because you can create this layout. You can do this, right? You can look at a web page and say, oh, yeah, I could do that. There's no question about completing this. So naturally, you don't get that excitement of, wow, I figured it out. Amazing. Now, when we go to Wized, this is kind of that next level where you
yeah,
can look at something and say, well, I think I can do it. It makes sense that I can do it, but there's going to be a lot of trial and error. It's not certain. And I can now get that rush of excitement back that says, wow, I figured this out and this was super difficult.
yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that
No,
a
for sure.
logical? Okay.
For sure. And me and my developer were on a call last night trying to figure out this function I was talking about, right? That generates all these rows of data that we need. And it took us a good couple hours to figure out. Like we were banging our heads a little bit, trying to figure out how to do this. And when we did it, we had a mini party for probably 3 minutes. We were like freaking out. We're like, yeah, this is it. This is super exciting. And so, yeah, but also like with websites, the scale of sites that we're doing now and the creativity involved in them is so much greater than websites we were doing 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that we still get that excitement when we're finishing a really cool site. I think as a creative individual, it's that inspiration I get. Even when honestly, like me and my fiance will be at the movies or something and I'll see a really cool like film or commercial. Honestly, some of these commercials that they make, like I just get super inspired. I'm like, yeah, I feel good. I don't know what it is, but I feel good. I'm like, they did a good job in that. Right. Whenever I see good creative content, it gets me pumped up. I'm like, yeah, I like it. So
That's
yeah.
great. And that brings me right back to your original story saying that you get these feelings of creativity, and that's what keeps you going, and that's what excites you.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
a shot of adrenaline when something creative happens in your life, whether that's the video, the photography, the web, the Wized, the commercial. So that's great. I love to hear that. Now we have some questions from the audience about Wized. So let's answer this. This
Yes,
is a little bit of a support kind of thing, but I think a lot of people are interested in these questions
I'm
as
here
well.
for it.
Let's do Demetrius. Would it be possible to use Wized, connect it with Xano, and filter a Webflow list according to a specific column within the database?
Yeah, if we are defining Webflow list as list of data from Xano appearing on Webflow from Wized, then yes. So what you could do is you can make an API call to Xano, and then say you have buttons, right? You could do buttons, or you could do a search field. You could pretty much filter it any way you want. You have a search field, enter in the name Bailey. All records that include the name Bailey would then appear based on that filter. So yes, it is indeed possible filtering data from Xano with Wiz.
Excellent. Great mute job there. Very nice. Next, we have one from Veso. I suppose you would be able to build complex front ends like Airtable or ClickUp
Yeah,
apps.
yeah. This is a fun
Nice.
one actually, because I literally yesterday was using HubSpot, and I was like, you know what, HubSpot's great, but there's a lot of features I'm not using on it, and I pay a lot of money for it. How can I build this internally to match exactly what we need and just be better and just save money? And we're actually thinking about building a pipeline management tool in Wized for our internal use, right? So in HubSpot, you have your website deals that come through. You have them in different deal phases. What I'm trying to do to first off is have those different deal phases and have those appear in Wiz using Xano as the database. But then using JavaScript to be able to click and drag these deal objects through to other deal phases, just like you can do in HubSpot. That click and drag functionality, super powerful. And you could do it with JavaScript. And using Wiz JavaScript API, you can set it so as soon as that person drops that item, that then triggers an API call or triggers a call to Wiz saying, hey, update this record in this new column that the user dropped it in. So one of the internal tools we also want to build is some sort of pipeline management tool as well as CRM with Wiz inside our site internally for us. And it's definitely possible. So it's going to be exciting.
That's cool. I love that. So essentially, you can create your own personal agency project tracking tool.
Yeah.
Instead of onboarding your client to ClickUp or Notion or Asana or wherever you're managing your project, you can build your own UI on your domain name. The client can log into your website and actually manage their project through your visual interface. And
Yeah.
Wiz can help you actually do those things in ClickUp. So you're managing the project in ClickUp, the client's managing it in your custom thing. It's a super custom experience. And based on what you said, we can build that, right?
Yeah. I still want to look into the full extent of what is possible. because there's some really cool tools in Asana like Gantt chart tracking, and this might internally we probably wouldn't use it for project management, more so client relationship management, right? So keeping track of client contacts, emails, information, notes, that type of thing. Not so much project management, but it's definitely doable. Like you can definitely do project
Possible.
management
Yeah,
situations in Wized, um, but Gantt charts specifically is a tricky thing to solve.
sure. Of course. Okay, let's bring this up from Steve, and I will answer this one. Asking for a friend, Caleb. How will this integrate or work with native logic? Well, there is no integration with Webflow native logic. That's because there's no way for us to integrate with it. So these are for two different use cases. For things that you're building with Webflow native logic, you are not going to be building them with Wized, or you don't need to build them with Wized. And Um, yeah, there. Once Webflow allows us to integrate with it, we are going to integrate with it. But for now, two totally separate things. Bailey, you have
Yeah.
anything to add to that?
I'd love to see a world where Webflow e-commerce opens up the ability to be able, opens up like API ability, right? Imagine if we could use Wized to do the front end checkout experience where people select a product, they select variables based on that product, digital or physical, doesn't matter. They enter in their address. With Wiz, we get their address, get live shipping rates from UPS, FedEx, anywhere. Send that data to Webflow e-commerce. Send the dynamic live price, the dynamic live shipping rate, and then Webflow e-commerce can then manage that checkout. If
Mm.
Imagine how powerful that could be if that was a thing. Oh my god, it's that's crazy. I always think like Webflow has the
Nice.
possibility to compete with Shopify in this situation. If you have Webflow plus Wiz plus Webflow e-commerce, you could compete with Shopify stores, and it's crazy powerful.
Wow, that is very cool. I love that
Yeah,
idea. I love that type of integration. So when it's available, which it's coming, right? Webflow will start allowing other people to integrate, and when they do, we will be in there with a native Webflow integration for it.
yeah. You
Okay,
guys missed
great.
the 10 jumping jacks and 10 push-ups from Joe on Twitter. I think only like 4 people
Oh
got
yeah.
access that way.
Yeah, there were some very passionate users who were,
Yeah.
and Demetrius is one of them. The push-ups, 10 push-ups, 10 jumping jacks. And the first three people that did that got early access. That's what we call passion. Okay, let's bring up this one. Even though it might not be a Wiz related question, how would someone show Google reviews on a website without Zapier links constantly breaking? So, Bailey, when we're using Wiz, do we see that Zapier connection breaking all the time? Is there any connections that break when we use Wiz?
Not with V2. Not with V2. It's super reliable and super robust. As long as you have it set up right the first time, you'll be good to go. I've actually not inputted Google reviews or shown Google reviews dynamically on a site before. I always do it statically, but yeah, Wiz V2 is a solid tool. Solid to the point where I think like at least probably by this time a dozen, maybe 2 dozen ideas when me and Jonas were beta testing it early August, late July, early August. There's probably a dozen or 2 dozen ideas that were my ideas and now are implemented into the product. It's super cool to see. Like we have this X-ray feature where you can click on X-ray and then you could see all of the items and what attributes apply to each item. That's one of my ideas. And we have specific search functionality, folders in certain areas. Yeah, there's some really, it's really cool to see that kind of build out. But Wiz V2 is super reliable, super robust, and better than Zapier for sure. But you don't with Wiz. Yeah, I mean, there's not really a situation where Zapier would be needed because Wiz can make API calls directly. The only benefit to Zapier is some of the things are already built natively, but you could do that all in Wiz already. So
And I think between Webflow Logic and Wiz, a lot of Webflow users will not have to use Zapier anymore.
yeah,
I
100%.
know we're going to be using Webflow Logic for sure. We just this morning we came up with a use case where we are going to use Webflow Logic. It just totally works. So then you use Logic for some use cases, Wiz for other use cases, and then altogether, Zapier is just not needed anymore, which I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are looking for because of this Zapier links constantly breaking. This is
Yep.
frustrating. It limits you. It takes away some of the power of Webflow. It really detracts from setting up some integrations. So
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
it's really nice to see.
And there's
Okay,
definitely use
Glenn.
cases. I was going to say there's
Yeah,
definitely use
please.
cases where logic is beneficial, right? If you're doing something really small, you just want to send a form submission to X based off of certain data, logic's the way to go. But if you want to do something a lot more complex and give your site superpowers, Wized is the way to go. So there's definitely a
Yeah,
world where the two coexist.
absolutely. And when you're using Wized, Xano is such a great option. Glenn at the Flow,
Mhm.
plus 100 for using Xano. It's a learning curve, but so worth it. Bailey, from my understanding, Xano is faster. It has
Yeah.
better API rates, usage rates. You can just do more. You can write a lot of code and do a lot of technical things in Xano if you wish to. So, yeah, you're a Xano user now, right? You said that earlier in the episode.
So we use Xano only, but it's actually really exciting because V2 now supports a bunch of other database options as well. You can use Google Firebase, you can use Supabase, you can use Canonic, and so there's a bunch of other database tools as well that you can use along with Wized. We use Xano internally for all of our projects. Super powerful, and it is a proper database tool. Like this isn't a Google Sheets situation. Like this is a big boy tool that can run enterprise grade applications, and we're doing that with a client of ours. So it's very powerful. Definitely would vote thumbs up for Xano.
Awesome. That's a really nice description. Okay, rock and roll CEO, geolocation. Will this be available? Can you do geolocation similar to how Uber works?
This is a really interesting edge case scenario. And Joe, I think we actually spoke about this like maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Um, if you remember, it was Finsweet's attributes API. And using a situation where I don't actually think you would need Wiz for this. I think you could do it with Finsweet's attributes API. But the way you'd essentially do it is you would get a user's location potentially by JavaScript, maybe IP, or maybe you just have the user input their location via a Google address autocomplete sort of situation, right? Then from that Google address autocomplete, you get their longitude and latitude. In your Webflow CMS, you have each item identified via longitude, latitude. And then with a bit of custom code in Finsweet's attributes API, you could then get all CMS listings within a certain radius, for example, 20-kilometer radius of the inputted longitude and latitude. It's complex and it's a far out edge case scenario, but this is the stuff I love trying with Wized and Finsweet API attributes. So is it possible? I would say so, yes. Has someone done it? I don't think so yet. So definitely be something really cool to see.
It's a nice use case, absolutely. And I agree. I think it's possible. That flow you explained, I think can absolutely be done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of options for that one. Okay, let's see. Now this episode has really transformed into like a whizzed question and answer. Normally, we go through your key qualities, what you want to do next, your advice. We're going to obviously change that a little bit. We're going to do a little bit more QA. I'll pick a few more questions, and then the next thing we'll talk about is your advice to people who want to get where you are.
Hmm.
Because in the beginning, you said you started in video, then you
Yeah.
were photography, and I'm guessing at that point you didn't know anything about this, right? You obviously have a very good way of thinking of these processes, how to create these applications, what you may want to use. So you learn this along the way. So I think a lot of people listening, including myself, are very interested in how you got to that point. We'll get to that later, but let's get a couple more questions in. Okay, I'll answer this one here. Shivam, are you planning to change the pricing plan? No, not really. No plans to. If If enough people really don't like it, we'll consider it. But we're happy with the pricing plan. Okay, let's see. A lot of people interested in getting into Wized. Yep, almost. We're going to keep you waiting. We're really just, messing with you at this point and just waiting it out. I'm kidding. We're making a lot of big improvements. Bailey is one of the people who's helping us make these big improvements, where we imagine the application, we know all the things that it's supposed to do, and now we're actually using it, and it's working. So that's why there's only a few people using it, power users, to say, hey, this is really working well, but this UI element, it's not really in the right spot. It's got to be here because I'm always needing it in this location. Or I need another set of folders, right? You have folders everywhere, but this area, there's no way to make folders. We got to have folders here. So these kind of updates. And that's really what Bailey's doing. And that's why we announced it. It's ready. We're improving it. And in 1 to 3 months, everybody will have access. So, Bailey, talk a little bit about that process. How are you using it right now and really working with Jonas to improve it almost every day, I'd say?
Yeah. No, me and Jonas talk. I think we message each other probably daily right now. It's a lot of intense changes. And back in August, it was a lot more, why don't we do it like this? Why don't we do it like that? Like, why don't we change the UX experience to, it's just a lot of changes to what was created. I would say now it's less changes, more added on features to really make it a finished product. It is a finished product, but to make it better, right? There's changes like this server-side rendering that's coming soon. That's going to come in the next little while here. Just features that are going to make it that much better, as well as we have a lot of users right now. I mean, I think there's 15 users right now in V2, beta testing it, trying it out, also giving their feedback. So it's better that we have more than just me and my developer James giving feedback on this product. Right now we have 15 people giving feedback, thinking about use cases that they run into frequently and providing feedback. So waiting is good. Waiting is good because the longer we wait, the better the product will be. And the more time you will save as well. We are building, Jonas and the team is building features that will save you time down the road. And so the longer you wait, the more time you'll save in the long run. It's a win-win. And
Nice.
I
That's
would
what
also
we
say,
want.
yeah, I would also say spend this time thinking about your database structure. If you're going to build something in V2 in the next month or so, think about your database structure. Think about the backend. We are working on this enterprise client, same one I was talking about earlier with the tons of rows of data. And we use FigJam to plan our database and how all the tables will connect to each other, how all these functions will work. So it's very important when you're working with clients at enterprise scale and even large scale to spend a good week or two defining the backend and how it's going to work and planning on it. Plan as much as possible before going into Wisdom, before going into the backend database, because there's going to be a lot of it's going to benefit you down the road.
Yeah, that's a great point. That if you're really waiting for Wized, there's things you can do to start learning how to build applications. One of those would be start using Xano.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go to Xano, go check it out, start playing with it, see what you can do, because it's likely that when you build a Wized application, you'll need to integrate to a database. And if Xano is the right move for that, start learning that. You're not just going to open up Wized and say, "Wow, I can build an application today. I can build it this week." There's a learning curve. You have to learn a little bit. You'll have to learn how databases work, right? This is the next level up from Webflow CMS. This is not a blog listing CMS structure, right? If you're doing comments and you're doing users and you're doing all these different things that have to work together, you kind of have to get used to planning that out, right? This is a skill to plan out the database structure before actually going to build it, right? So tell me about that. You've learned how to plan this out. How have you learned that?
When we started with this one client, we started with the different stages that the client goes through in this specific booking process. It is a booking process for client to book things. I'm going to keep it somewhat vague, but so beginning, there's an onboarding process, and then they have a booking process. Then there is a post booking process. Maybe there is a waitlist process. All these different kind of stages that the client can be at in this booking, in this overarching booking process. Define those different stages first, then define functions within those stages. And then once you have those functions within those stages, then you're going to start to understand what type of database structure you'll need, what tables you'll need, and what information in those tables you'll need. So kind of work from the top, work your way down. And it's also, yeah, it's also what works best for you, but that is kind of the process we have been using, and it works well.
That's great. So learning while doing, right? A use case comes to you, an idea comes to you, and you learn how to do that just by planning that application. This is a great way to learn. So I like that. Um, okay, let's see. We have any more questions? This is just a nice comment from Dale. Let's bring
So
this
that's,
up.
yeah.
Joe, it is clear that both you and Bailey, as well as many of the folks asking questions in chat, are adding value for those of us committed to Webflow to address real client needs. Thank you all. Yeah, Dale, thank you. Appreciate that. So, a lot of us are presented with use cases in Webflow, and we say, hey, we can't do that. Whether it's Webflow can't do that or I can't do that. And then we just kind of turn the client away from that. No, no, no. This is a marketing website. Let's do marketing. So, yes, I think this is a way to just satisfy more clients and to bring more clients to Webflow.
Yeah.
For the people that were turned away from Webflow, I know we get a lot of them, or we used to get a lot of them, and now we can address those needs because we've gotten this extra information, this extra knowledge that helps us support those people. So, yeah, Bailey, what do
This
you have
is
to add to that?
this is a great segue. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I love talking to the community about Wiz, because as an agency owner myself, it has allowed us to increase our average revenue per project dramatically. We're not talking like an extra thousand, $2,000 here or there. We're talking 10x, 20x the cost of Webflow projects doing Wized. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how much time and the cost per hours it takes to build a feature. It's about the value you can provide to your clients, right? With Wized, you can provide the same value an experienced developer can provide with custom code. And you can do that with no code and low code with Wized. And because it's the same value, you can charge the same, right? There's so many pros to it because you charge the same for yourself, and for the client, you can get it done in a quarter or half the time. So it's a win for them as well. So Wized, it's a huge revenue boost for agencies. It is what allowed me to grow and to become, for Blackbeat to be where it is today. It's what allows us to go to State of Flow. It's what allows us to go to No Code Conference and bring my developer to No Code Conference in San Francisco. So these things, I was always wondering, like, my agency is doing good, but how do I get it to the next level of growth? How do I get those projects that allow me to really work on biz dev rather than me doing design or doing development? How do you get yourself as an agency owner into that biz dev position? You need projects that give you the margins to be able to focus on that. And Wiz has allowed us to do that.
Nailed it. Love it. That is uh all of the Finsweet editors, we need to cut that little piece right there. That's got to go on Instagram. That's got to go on Twitter. All that. That was such a beautiful way to say it, and it's so true that to get to that level in your agency where you take a step back, you're able to look at it and not do all of the work for the revenue, that's when you can start getting to the next level of growth. And some people are looking for this, some people are not, right? I'm not saying that this is the path that every agency should take, but there are people that want to do that. And Bailey, it's very clear that you want to take that to the next level. So you can see Black Peak going from 4 people to 10 people to probably 50 people, right?
Yeah.
Is there any number that you want to take that to?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know. I would definitely. I think State of Flow. I wanted to have 20 people by the end of next year. So, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to define a KPI metric as amount of people in the team.
Yeah.
I'm very, when it comes to hierarchy, I'm super flat when it comes to hierarchy. I like to define as just a bunch of friends, people working, hanging out, building really cool stuff, building stuff that excites us. So I don't know if team amount is the KPI metric I'm going for. I don't know what it is I'm going for yet. I think I'm just still going for that dopamine rush of completing really cool projects, accomplishing challenging tasks, and just looking for that excitement. And Webflow and Wiz allows me to do that.
That's a great answer. There's nothing wrong with that answer. That you don't really need to plan all of that stuff so far in advance, right? You don't need, if you don't hit the 20 user mark, 20 people in your team mark by the end of next year, that doesn't mean you're not successful. You could have grown in other ways, right? You can, your agency can, you can consider growth in your agency by just having more time to yourself,
Yeah.
right? By having larger margins so you don't have to work 10 hours a day. You can work 5 hours a day and you're making the same money and you're just happier, right? That can be agency growth. So there's so many different ways to do it. I asked the person question just curious, but I think you answered that really well. That it's, you don't have to make that decision now. Just find what makes you happy. In your case, you called it the dopamine rush,
Yeah.
and just keep doing that, right? Just keep doing cool
Yeah.
things that are growing your company, making you happy, and keeping you going.
Like I definitely have personal goals. I have like 1 year goal, 5 year goals, etc. Um, but yeah, I mean, agency goals, I wouldn't say team number is the amount I'm capping it
Yeah,
at. So
great. Okay. So we have 8 minutes left. And Bailey, I want to ask you, what should people start learning? What should people start doing to prepare for Wized? We talked about Xano, and that learning Xano is a great way to get that database mindset in place. What else can people go and do?
if you want to start getting into Wiz, I mean, sign up for the waitlist. That's the first item. Maybe send Joe a bribe. That might help. Um, and but I mean, just practice with Xano, with any database tool you're looking to use, whether that's Xano or Firebase. Practice with the databases. Watch some of the YouTube tutorials, and keep it locked on our site, blackpeak.ca as well, because we're going to be building something really really cool with the Finsweet team, and it is going to kick ass. So can't say anything just yet on it. Most likely before No Code Conf comes out, but it's going to be really exciting what we're doing. So yeah, there's lots of
It's
lots of
ed-
good stuff coming.
it's education based, right? There's
It
more to
is.
it, but
It
it's
is.
it's really about educating everybody who wants to learn it.
Yeah.
And I think once you learn it, you kind of feel like you have this little superpower that, when someone tells you an idea, instead of saying, I don't know if that's possible, I don't know if I can do that. And when somebody tells you an idea and you say, oh, yeah, I like, you can do it two different ways, this way or this way. Being able to do that, to me, it feels like a superpower because I think about those things when I see commercials. I think about those things when I see an advertisement for an application. So that gives me a rush to hear an idea, to visit a website and say, oh, this is happening because of this. This works in this way because of these processes. So that's this education part of it. And I think you are going to be a big leader in this education. You're very interested in the clonables and the videos along with the clonables showing how they're built. This kind of learn while building.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, video clonables are only as powerful as the tutorials provided with them, I would say. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
great. Now, Bailey, we didn't follow the guideline of the show, but we actually hit a lot of the points, right? We talked about your strengths and qualities. We talked about advice, right? We're talking about that now. We sprinkled that throughout the whole episode. We talked about your challenges, what you're going to do with Wized, how you're going to grow the team, scale, become more of a leader instead of a builder. And now, how can the community help you? For everybody listening, everybody that got value from this, first hit the like button. If you're watching this and you like it, hit the like button. It's going to help us with YouTube. So that's the first way you can help us. But Bailey, how can each person help you?
Feedback, honestly, feedback with what they want to see in the Wized community. I would say sign up for our course that we have right now. Our videos on there, our clonables are going to be on there soon. Sign up on our site. You can use Google Auth or email and just provide feedback. I have Twitter as well. People can reach out on Twitter. Tell me what you want to see, what you want to see with Wized, what clonables you want to see. Be really awesome to hear different clonables, different use cases that people would like to see in Wized, and we might build it. So just hearing feedback on what the community wants when it comes to Wized and what we can provide with that is yeah, that would be the best. I can
Awesome.
see I'm getting, as this live stream goes on, I'm getting notifications of people signing up on it. And yeah, it's
Nice.
going to be a little
Great.
quiet for the next couple weeks, but once we launch this product with Finsweet, it's going to go space shuttle status.
Love it. So you want to be a community leader
That's the
in
goal.
the Wiz community. Yeah, that's your goal. So tell me, how are you going to do that?
I mean, honestly, I think we're pretty close already. I would say, how are we going to do that? Just build really unique edge case scenario clonables that really push the boundaries of what you can do with Wiz. It'll inspire people to build. Yeah, just keep building cool stuff on Wiz that pushes the boundaries. That's how we're going to do it.
Simple strategy, but it works, right? You keep building cool things and then people enjoy that. This type of
Yeah.
community, this type of industry loves to see cool things, right? Whether it's design driven, creativity driven, application driven, random driven, it doesn't matter. People love to see that. So, this is a simple strategy that I think you can apply to any skill in this industry, to branding, to design, to Webflow development, to Wiz development, to JavaScript development. Uh, this is very valuable. So, I love that you're going to do that. And it's a big benefit to the community because they'll be receiving all of these, maybe some free, maybe some paid tools for learning.
Yeah.
And Josh Lowe, build, show and tell. That's what this is. We're building it. This is how we built it. This is why it's cool. And this is how you're going to learn from it. And people go and do that themselves. And then that person does it, and that person does it. And that's how this Webflow ecosystem has really flourished. People are inspired by clonables, and they have an idea for their own clonable. And someone's inspired by that clonable, and they have an idea for their own clonable. And now there's thousands of people actively creating clonables. So you may be the pioneer in this whizzed clonable initiative. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Nice. Good. Okay, we have 1 minute left, which means I will start to end this episode. Bailey, it was really nice speaking to you. I learned a
Thank you
lot.
very much.
I think the audience really liked it. This is our highest viewed episode of live viewers of all time. So obviously, this content people like it. So we'll have to have you back and maybe we can jump really deep into Wiz stuff, like really go through how things are set up.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you at No Code
Tomorrow,
Conf.
yes, at Webflow Conf,
Yes.
we will see everybody. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, we have Alex Iglesias for Build Day, and we'll talk Finsweet TypeScript utilities for Webflow. We have created a series of utilities for using Webflow, our own methods for interacting with the Webflow system. And these are built in TypeScript, and we will be covering those. They're publicly available, but we're going to show you how they work and why you would want to use them. So I just shared the link inside the YouTube. Go ahead and save that for tomorrow. And Bailey, please, final words to the audience here for Community Day.
Go build something cool with Wiz and show me it. I want to see it.
Hell yeah. Love it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day and see you soon.